on your side a bit, or is it my
I
side?
can hear you loud and
And we are live on YouTube saying hello to our fearless friends. We are going to start our great talk with Kitty Yeung Downer. By the way, Kitty, can you please tell me how to pronounce your name properly? I just want to make
You
sure.
just did.
Oh, okay, so it's
You did it
Kitty.
perfectly. It is
Wonderful.
exactly Kitty Yeung Downer.
Kitty Young Downer. Okay. Okay, this is important as well. I don't want to say anything that's not your name. Okay. The system is a bit low, apparently, even though I have the internet cable here. But yeah, hopefully it all goes well when we start the actual recording. Yeah, it's a bit slow, I think, on my side as well. But hopefully, can you hear?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Wonderful, because now that I also launched YouTube streaming, it's a bit slower. I can see myself talking in a slow pace, but we can deal with that. Okay, and yeah, if
Oh,
you're
good. Oh, good.
okay, can you please repeat that? Oh my goodness, it didn't
I
sound.
said, oh, good. Oh, good.
Okay, great. Yeah, on my side, it was a bit of a glitch here. But yeah, starting our podcast episode in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 30 with the wonderful Kitty Young Downer, who is a mentor and an author. She's going to teach us today how to find our true self and make it work for us in our working space. Kitty is also a truth sleuth and is helping us to discover what is it that is hiding deep down inside of us through her amazing book, The Code: Transform Your Mind from the Inside Out. And I'm only going to share with you a few words about Kitty since she's going to do the main talking today. Kitty is an experienced people development professional with over 15 years background with working with people from all walks of life, including senior executives with multi-million dollars budgets at a corporate level and entrepreneurs and students on an individual basis. Kitty is sharing her passion and experience in bringing clarity to our daily lives. Kitty, I'm loving your work. Thank you for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure. And thank you for hosting me.
Kitty, can you please start with telling us what is the story behind your beautiful work, which is very inspiring to many, and what does exactly a truth slug mean?
A truth sleuth is like a truth detective, or I like to call myself a mirror, mirror on the wall, because we often kind of look at ourselves and want to see the beauty, but there's a lots of other things that we choose not to see, even though we can see them. So for me, I am like someone who hold up the mirror for you so that you can see what you truly need to see rather than what you truly just want to see. So that's what I do. So when people ask me about, what do you do? If I tell them I'm a mentor or author, it doesn't really mean much because those terms are just so generic. And I want to make it a bit lighter and more fun because when we talk about self-development, often it sounds so serious or people just go, what? But when I tell people, oh, I'm actually a mirror, mirror on the wall, or you're a truth sleuth, it brings in a perspective. And then it's easier and people will be more open to really listen to what is it that I want to achieve. Because the work that I do, as much as it's for me, I'm also wanting to work with people who are ready to jump into their own self-discovery journey.
This is inspiring because when you hear of the mirror, mirror on the wall, it instantly took me to some fairy tales where you would get all sorts of characters. And can you please share with us, Kitty, how important was it for you to discover who you were, what is your truth, and how you got to be in this point where you are having a successful business, you are an amazing mom of two. I know how challenging it is with one. Oh my goodness, you have two. What is your motivator and what's your story? We would love to find out more about who you are.
Well, the story is like kind of like my mission. I used to work in the corporate world. After university, I climbed the corporate ladder. And having spent so much time there, I feel that in our world, whether it's corporate or the world we live in general, we are so focused on the power of our mind, leaving the power of our heart, which is where the truth lies often, behind. And in my life, after spending a number of years in the corporate world, I kind of left it all behind and then went on to my own self-discovery journey. And through that, I learned a lot about myself in my own way. And at the end of that journey, I had an opportunity to go back to the corporate world per se. And I realized that, people often talk about work-life balance, but we only have one life. We can't split it into two. And I feel that if only we are able to enable or even to talk about how we are just one person and one life, how we can actually bring our heart in a bit more in the world which is dominated by logic, rationale, and reasons, the world will get a lot more harmony for a start. And the way that we do business and live our life will be changed completely differently. We will feel more aligned with who we are rather than I often hear people talk about, they feel that they need to fit in, but it isn't about fitting in. We can't change ourselves into someone we're not. But many still do, thinking that, well, it's okay, I'm this person when I go to work. But eventually you lose yourself in this habit that we do day in, day out, telling ourselves that it's okay. But in reality, it isn't, because that's when people feel that they're not happy with their work. And we spend so many hours in work, and then we wonder why we're not happy with our life. And it was, let's change our work, but you're changing the frame, right? But you haven't changed the content because you're still being that person that you think you need to fit in. And so for me, having experienced both sides of the world, I just feel that I want people to know you can actually have your mind and your heart with you day in, day out. There's no fitting in. It's more about how you apply yourself in the more defined environment, because when we learn about ourselves, there are no boundaries, because we are like taking everything that is not serving us away. So there's no framework other than how we actually dig in. But when we are at work, obviously every organization have their own framework. So everybody feels that we have to fit in order to grow. But my philosophy is when we fit in, we become someone we are not. So how do we grow? But if we look at it from a different perspective, how can I learn about myself and apply myself in this particular situation? That changed the whole situation completely differently. And we will feel restricted, we feel more wholesome, and we feel we're more enabled and empowered to do what we need to do, because it isn't about saying what we think we can say, it's saying what we feel is right. And I think there's a fine balance between being self but also applying self in a work environment, knowing what you can say, what you can't say. But right now a lot of it is right up in the mind, but very little in the heart.
This is so powerful, Kitty. I'm writing some things down as you talk here. And as obvious as it is that, yes, we only have one life, it's only one that you need to be able to have a lifestyle and then fit the small bits of business and getting your education right. But sometimes you're so right. We get to put business and our careers and our professional lives as the bigger picture, and then we get our hobbies as a 1%. Maybe I'm too busy today. Let me get with my hobby next week or next month. And then you get into seeing that it hasn't happened. I'm unhappy because I am only focusing on business and I have no idea who I am anymore because I want to fit in an environment that I have not created. It's something that makes me forget who I am. I wanted to ask you, Kitty, what do you think about authenticity and what is that balance that you have also mentioned? How to be yourself and know when and what to update, when to go away, when to be working even more to progress. What would you say that is the best balance with also keeping yourself authentic?
That's a big question. Let me do it bit by bit. So, being authentic for me, authenticity is the big words. And that's why in my book, I actually break it down into 3 pieces. It's about being who we are, knowing what we truly want, and why we want what we want. For me, that's the 3 major elements of being the authentic self. The first one about being who we are. One of the things that I talk about, especially if I have a workshop, most people, when they meet someone they've never met before, they say, hey, I'm Kitty Downer, I'm a mentor, I'm a mother of 2. Or it's always what you do and the sort of roles that you play in life that comes out first. And so some time ago when I was doing a television program back in Hong Kong, so I had a bunch of participants. So we put them on camera like you do with me. So we give them 5 minutes and ask them to introduce themselves. No clue, no question whatsoever. And most people just say, oh, my name is Johnny. I'm a father of 3 and I'm an engineer. So you can hear everyone who did their turn. The dialogue is very similar. And then the second round, they came back and asked them, now, well, why don't you introduce yourself, but you're not allowed to tell people what you do for a living, what roles you play in life, and how old you are, and now go. So immediately, everyone just went blank without a doubt. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, all the people who came in and did their turn. Just went, so my question in the end for them, it wasn't really a challenge, but so how well do we know ourselves? And does it not explain why sometimes when we lose our job and the longer we're unemployed, the less confident we become? So in many ways, it's telling us that we are tagging ourselves into the job that we do. But we change one job to another. Our self-confidence doesn't get affected. Isn't affected if I change myself from being a mentor today to tomorrow being something else, because there's an immediate transition, there's no space. But the challenge we have is when there's a space there that we cannot label ourselves or tag ourselves along, we struggle with our own identity. And that is why I'm like, okay, first of all, without all that society labeling, do we even know who we are? Now, when we say, do we even know who we are, it doesn't mean we have to know exactly the wording. Sometimes I feel that we are limiting ourselves with our words, but in terms of sensing, emotion can be undescribable. How often we say, oh, I'm speechless when we are ecstatic, right? So confining ourselves to be able to use words to describe who we are is another self-imposed challenge that I don't feel we need. But until our mind is satisfied, we always feel that, oh, I don't really know who I am anymore. But that is not the case. So the who, there are so many layers in there that I feel it's paramount in order for us to, not necessarily a good understanding, but a good sense of who we really are and obviously who we want to become. And the next one is, what do we really want? We often come and say, oh, I want this, I want that. But if you want this and that, how come they're not done? Procrastination, or is it really what you want? Now, they're different things, right? What we say we want is one thing, but is it really what we want? It's two different things. So are people asking the question, do you even know what it is? Because many of us are on autopilot. No one is going to sit there. Well, your true solution is not going to be there in front of your face every day and say, you say you want this, how come you haven't done it? So can you tell me, is it something that you think you want? Is it something that you truly want? If it is something that you think you want, people will never go and do it because it's just like, yeah, it's okay. But if that's the case, then maybe it's not something that you really want. And if that is true, then why don't we just take that off the list? The more clutter we have in our thoughts and in our mind, the slower we move forward. So what we want in life is the second element. But again, at times it's not always clear. So recently I see people saying about life purpose. You don't have to have a statement before you live your life. Life purpose comes as and when we live. There may be times some people will find their life purpose when they're 16. Maybe someone will find his or her life purpose when they are 82. Life is not a competition. Everyone will get to their destination at the right time, at the right pace. So knowing what we want, if you don't know exactly what it is, it's fine. Take your time. But ask yourself the hard questions, when we say we want something, if it hasn't been done, we need to differentiate. Is it what we think we want, or is it what we truly want? So that's the who and the what, and then the why. Why do we what we want? To me, it is, you can't understand your why until we have a good sense of who we are and what we want. The why is a big why. It doesn't come just like, oh, okay, it's because there's a certain connection and element with the who and the what. And in order for us to understand who and what, and then we can really look into, okay, why am I doing this? A lot of it is because, there's something bigger, maybe aspiration or inspiration. That's maybe what we are after, part of being who we are. And that both of them lead back into, okay, this is why I want what I want. But of course, the why also feed back into the who and the what. So this is how I see authenticity. And I hope that with that framework, it gives people a better grip of such a big word, because it can mean so many things to so many different people.
Wow. I am right now digesting what you have just said. This is so inspiring and has made me think in 10 different ways right now. So I wanted to ask you, because this may be this very common human trait. We let our minds wandering, and yes, it is sometimes challenging to realize, do you think you want something, or do you really want it? Kitty, what would you say is the best way to declutter our thoughts?
Many ways, but to give you the killer question that I ask myself often, I'm not talking about, what would I like for breakfast, but something major in life. Often I say, okay, do you really want it? If you don't, then forget it. If you do, you haven't done it, then you need to ask, okay, maybe it's just something that you think you want. If that's the case, forget it. Whether there's, I know the topic is about fear as well. Because people sometimes say, well, I have fear, that's why I'm not doing it. But the thing is, if it's not something that you truly want, whether you have fear or not, it becomes totally irrelevant. Because even if you don't have fear, it's not really what you want. You're not going to take action, right? But often when we are not clear with what we want, we just grab whatever excuses we can, and fear could be one of them. And often people say, I don't have time, I don't know how, I don't have money. Okay, I say they are legitimate reasons if that's what you truly want, but they are just totally irrelevant if it's something that you think you want, because even if I give you all the money you need, all the time you need, you still won't do it because there's a clear difference between the two. And the question that I ask myself after that is, if I die tomorrow, will I have any regrets if I didn't do this? And if my answer was yes, I would regret it, then I will go and do it. Then it's just a matter of coming back to your drawing board. Okay, what's the plan? What's the timeline? And I know that there are times in our life, as much as we want to, there may be constraints in different places. Then know the constraint is whatever element that you can't do it right now, then that's fine. Tell yourself, I will do it whatever time. But don't just park there, having the list constantly that, yeah, I want it, but, I can't. Yeah, I don't believe in that I can't. You either park it like, I don't want it, I can, but what are the reasons that I can't do it right now? Be honest with yourself. And for me, I think, when I ask myself that questions, if I die tomorrow, would I regret that I didn't do something about it? Everybody wants to say, we want to die with no regrets. Nobody wants to die with regrets, right? But the paradox is, no one has a crystal ball. We don't know exactly when we will go. And the only way we can die with no regrets is to live life with no regrets. But yeah, we feel that we have all the time that we have. And when the time is up, then regrets come because they are there. So for me, often is, even if I have fear, coming back to major focus, I can live with fear, but I cannot live with regrets. So you've got to be very clear about what's your pushing point and how you can override one element with another bigger force to make you do the things that you're clearly, wanting to go after it.
Beautifully said, Kitty. I am very curious, what is your take on clarity? Would you say that the best approach would be to think things very thoroughly before, or is it maybe better to actually start doing in order to get clarity, to see what best fits you? What do you say that is the best approach here?
I don't think there is one because everyone operates differently. Some people are more logical. Some people are more with going with the flow. I think whether you use your mind more or whether you gear up to your heart, you know what your truth is, because we can all tell lies to people, but the truth we always know. Everybody knows. Life is ours. How honest we want to be is entirely up to us. And most people won't be utterly honest because there's no one spotting you and say, hey, you're not being 100% honest. Because there are very deep truths that people, when you talk to people, sometimes you talk to people and you can see, they're telling themselves a story to give themselves a reason or excuse for not doing something. But you can also see that they're convincing themselves. These people, they know what they're talking about, right? But it's whether they want to be utterly honest with their own truth. And I think we all know it's just a matter of how willing we are to step up, to face ourselves, because there's no one punishing us. There's no goalkeeper and say, hey, red card, you step out of the line. No one is doing it. And for us, naturally, if we don't have to do the extra work, why would we? And we can cheat because no one will notice if we do something not nice or not as good. But the reality is we know the truth. And at the end of the day, we are the only one who has to live our life and who gets to live our life. You make it good, it's your good. You make it bad, it's your bad. Then you're the only one who will go through it. I think everybody knows. It's just how honest and how willing you are to be with yourself. Nobody else but yourself.
You know, Kitty, it got me thinking that, as you say, I sometimes think that, okay, I can do this because no one's watching. I can say this. I can skip my exercises for today. But the problem is, the thing is that we are watching. And I think that this is the biggest eye opener that we should have, because we are, as you say, our biggest critics. We don't have any other goalkeeper, but I think that in fact, if we don't train our minds properly, we get to be very harsh with ourselves. We treat ourselves like we wouldn't treat anyone else. We wouldn't treat our best friends as we sometimes talk to ourselves. That's why our confidence most of the times shatters, because we think that, okay, no one is going to have any idea what I did today. However, you yourself are going to be the one that has the idea. And I wanted to ask you, Kitty, how did you get to build up such strong confidence? Because you are pouring with empowerment thoughts to us today. What is your secret? What got you to be so confident and so authentic and honest with yourself?
Like many things, the more we do it, the more confident we become, because it's not coming from just reading from a book. It's because you've done it so many times again and again. And all this, some people call it internal work or inner work, however label you want to use. The more it's just like any skills, the more you do it, the better you get, the more confident you are. However, like what I said, when you do work on yourself, because nobody likes being wrong. I don't like being criticized either, let alone having myself criticizing myself, right? And of course, you tend to get lazy. So unless you work for a mentor who will help you to work with you, but even with the best mentor, the work has to be done by you, not the mentor. The mentor can only ask the questions. I can't go and actually take the actions for you. I can't actually, get a whatever digger to go inside and dig into your mind and your heart. So at the end of the day, I think maybe I've done enough work to make me feel passionate about what I do and make me feel confident about what I say, because I've gone through it myself again and again. I know how powerful it is, and I know how other people can do the same if only they know how. And when they hear the story, I think many people are ready and willing to do it, but when we don't talk about it enough, then people just feel, can I not? But I'm saying that, hey, I'm the true sleuth. I'm your mirror on the wall. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Let me share how I've done it, and let me see if I can also guide you to do your journey.
Beautiful. Kitty, this is very inspiring, and I am truly learning so much from you right now. Having things written down here, oh my goodness, one of the best decisions I took today was to have my pen and paper ready. And by the way, about decisions, would you say that someone is willing to truly go down this deep dive inside if they have something very strongly motivating them? What would you say that it would be the best approach for someone to get ready, if possible, to be truly guided by you without that obvious resistance that everyone would like to have? Since why do the extra work?
Why to do the extra work? I think the why has to come from that person. You have a desire to change, to grow, and to evolve, to be a better version of you. At times I talk to people about my work, and some people say, well, I'm completely fine, my life is all good. Then I say, yeah, then it's fine. We're not here to fix anything. We're just wanting to make things better. But not everyone wants to make things better. Some people are just happy-go-lucky and to stay put. And for me, it's fine, because if you don't feel there's a need and a desire, doesn't matter what miracle I can bring, nothing is going to work because there's no desire within. Yeah. And for people who are ready, then yeah, definitely there will still be resistance, there will still be fear, but they are good elements because it makes us look deeper, it makes us think twice, it makes us ask ourselves the hard questions, because all of it, I think everything is a yin and yang. Fear is good if you use it in the right way. Resistance is good because you know there's a blockage there. If the resistance is not there, everything just goes through it. You know, you just do it without knowing the insights, the hardships, because growth comes from going something challenging, right? If everything's easy, you learn nothing. So for me, readiness is great, willingness is great, but don't expect it when you have all the good elements, you know, it's a smooth sailing. It isn't, and it's a life journey, and it's a fun journey if you find someone to do it with you as well. So yeah, I think it's all good.
Love it. I love it. I love the positive perspective on resistance and on fear as well. And we were talking about regret earlier. Kitty, I don't want to have any regrets. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to ask you a question about what you said earlier. Can you please tell me, how would you introduce yourself if you were part of the experiment that you had done with the television program a while ago? What would you say that it's your best introduction here?
Okay, I don't know if it's best, but if I was asked to do what I normally ask people to do, this is how I would introduce myself. I'm Yeung Downer. I love inspiring people and being inspired. I love reading great books. I love being outdoor. I love watching movies, things that stimulates my mind and my soul, but at the same time it touches my heart. I just love self-fulfillment, you know, whether it's by doing something for myself or whether it's by doing something for others so they can fulfill what they want to fulfill. For me, I feel like I'm just like if I can kind of picture this me as a pill, as a candy, whatever, this is me. It's all about self-fulfillment, you know, inspiration or being inspired. And how I do it, it's just a way of method. You know, if I'm a mentor or I become a teacher or, you know, whatever role I play is irrelevant because the essence is still there. And I think when we come to think about ourselves, not necessarily introducing ourselves, what essence do we want to embody as a person? And then use that essence to apply that in our daily life, whether you're a mother, whether you're a podcast host, whether you're a yoga teacher, that essence doesn't change because that's you. It's almost like that's your heartbeat.
What a beautiful metaphor. It's like your heartbeat. It's actually what makes you feel alive. So I'm very inspired by this. And I wanted to ask you, Kitty, how would you describe your journey with fear? Was it an ally for you? Was it a good friend, maybe a guidance through all of the changes that you went through?
I think it has worked for and against me. But like when for me, fear is good, but I always put fear next to regret. So when I say, okay, if I can't live with it, or you know, if it is a regret that I cannot live with, then I will do whatever to get myself out there to do it, because fear, I can handle it, because fear is just one moment, but regret is for as far as I live. So when you look at the time duration, you know, you may have to muster a lot of courage to overcome that fear, but that's totally doable. But the regret is not something that you can erase. So for me, yeah, I have fear, but I often kind of look within and say, okay, why am I so scared about this? Is it because of me, or is it because of other people? Is it because, how I was brought up, or is it the culture, or is it the environment? You've got to dissect, the source of the fear, because a lot of the time, the way that we are brought up, we're so heavily influenced, if not what I call, unconsciously ingrained by our family, our culture, our community, our upbringing. We just take things on and thinking that they are ours. But many things are not ours. They're kind of part of our life, but they don't necessarily align with who we really are. But yet there's no one lesson in school or one lecture anywhere to say, hey, today we're going to look at whether your thoughts and beliefs are truly yours. Because the society need a majority of framework. And if you start dissecting people, it can get chaotic. But having said that, it is important that even when we live in a community, we've got to understand who we are, what we want, and why we want what we want. Because this is ourselves, right? Being authentic is about being us, but at the same time applying ourselves in the environment that we're in. There's no fitting in. The minute we mold ourselves into a different shape, we're no longer us. And then we suddenly realize one day, oh, why am I so unhappy? Because it's all the doing, not just at that point, it was all the doing, since whenever it started. So yeah.
Kitty, you are now making me change my lifestyle, and I'm already asking myself some very honest questions here, because I can completely relate to what you said earlier, trying to fit in. 10 years ago, Kitty, I would be doing the impossible to just make sure that people would accept me, that they would like me. My goal in this lifetime would be to be loved and to be appreciated, but at the same time, I resented myself for doing something that was completely out of alignment. Because, as you say, we know what we want in our hearts, and obviously, us chasing other people's affection is not a way to live a good life. And I wish I had been in contact with you 15 years ago, 10 years ago, because knowing that we don't need to fit in anywhere, we just need to find out who we are. This is so relieving. And as I said earlier, you are making me think that sometimes during the day, I still have this tendency to go back to the old pattern, and I'm doing something that feels very difficult to do. And now I realize that this is a sign for me that, okay, who am I trying to please? Because it's obviously not pleasing myself, not putting myself first, as I'm such a big believer that you can't give from an empty bag. So if we don't nourish ourselves properly, if we don't give ourselves that great attention to know that we matter as we are enough. I know that maybe this quote is very underestimated, knowing that you are enough, but I think this is so powerful. What do you think?
Well, there are two things I want to share. Just let me write it down before I forget. First, I would like to share, because I'm sure you're not the only one who feel that, oh, I wish I had known that 10 years ago. Many years ago, I met a friend of mine. He's exactly the same. So he's from Hong Kong like me, but at the time I was living and working in LA. And he was actually living in Singapore. So he came to LA to visit me. And he said to me, the mum is getting old. He wished he had spent more time with the mother when he was still living in Hong Kong. I said to him, look, you did what you wanted to. You did what you could at the time. You couldn't wish you had done it differently, because if you had wanted to, you would have done it. So why are you giving yourself the self-guilt? That is not necessarily, and it's totally invalid. And what is it going to do? It's just to cripple you from this point onwards. Because it's just, for me, the I wish list, we have to take a step back and really think about what is it that we're saying that I wish. Because I believe many of us, if we could have done it, we would have. There was something that we that stop us from doing it, whether you want or whatever the reason, if not the excuse, is irrelevant. If we are truly honest with ourselves, we would have done it. So the fact that we didn't do it is for the right reason, even though it may look wrong from where we stand. But it's easy to talk with the hindsight, right? But at the time, we didn't have any insight. So how could we trip ourselves into this self-guilt trip when it really doesn't do anything other than sabotaging ourselves and our feelings? So that's the story I wanted to share. So I think we all have our own journey, whatever time, however long it takes. When it is your time to have that realization, it will come. Then it's your time to say, okay, am I going to grab the bull by the horn? Am I being totally honest with myself? Or am I just going through the same cycle again? So that's one thing I want to talk about. And I think the other thing is self-fulfillment. It is true, if we don't attend to ourselves first before attending to others, we have very little to give. In our society, self-fulfillment is so underrated. Anything, any term that comes with the word self is often seen as negative.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about, oh, if you do something good for others, people will say, oh, she or he is so selfish. If you think about yourself first, oh, you're so selfish. But what I would like us to think about is self-centric. You can't attend to anyone if your tank is not full. And if you attend to somebody else's needs with your tank half full, you'll never be that best person or the best version of yourself to attend to others. And what isn't helping, I feel, and some people may disagree, is that when people do voluntary work, the selflessness I actually feel is overrated. People do those work, yes, because it is for good cause, but it also makes them feel good about themselves, as well as for the people that they're helping. If you think about it, if they don't feel good about themselves, would they continue to do it indefinitely? They won't, right? It isn't what we're doing, whether it's for others or for ourselves. If it doesn't make us feel good at the end of the day, we won't do it. And we can do it once, twice, but it won't sustain. So for me, the selflessness is good, but the ultimate drive is still self-centric. I won't call it selfish, because for people who are asking nothing in return in a tangible way, they are still getting many things back, but in a very intangible way. Feelings, fulfillment. These are things that we cannot quantify. There's no paper money to say this is $100 of self-fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I think we need to be less specific in a way about the self. And let's focus on, self-fulfillment is important for everyone. And I feel motivation has been out there. It's a term that has been used for a long time. And self-fulfillment is something that we all need fundamentally, whether it is from within, from ourselves, or whether it's from outside by helping others, or simply by doing a job that we need to, because we feel fulfilled. Self-fulfillment for me is something that I wish more people will pay attention to, and thinking about it's self-centric. There's a something in between being selfish and selfless. It's called self-centric.
Thank you for saying this. This is going to be such a great burden lifted of the young people's shoulders that have this tendency and need. And I know that I was like this, to be there, to be the one that pleases everyone, but they forget about themselves. I am very appreciative that you said this. It's about you. Any way you take it, it's you nurturing yourself. And then obviously, when you are happy and fulfilled, you can nurture other people as well. And would you say that does it go the exact same way with motherhood? What do you think about motherhood and attending all of the other responsibilities that life gets you to be involved
When I think
in?
about it, it gives me a headache. That's the truth. I think ultimately everyone has a different balance of give and take. And I look at it, yes, we need to be self-centric. We also have to look at the collective we, because it's not just me, it's the whole family. And if all I focus on is having my tank filled 100%, but leaving everybody else down to zero, it doesn't work. It's about keeping everything in check and in balance to the best possible. It may mean there was zero day that nobody has a 100% filled tank, which is fine because we are a community. Collectively, we've got to look out for each other. As self-centric as I need to be, I still have to make sure, food is on the table, the kids are taken care of. But at the same time, it's all about finding that balance in that given moment. But there are times that I know I simply cannot give. Then I was like, okay, guys, just stop. I will find the space and the time to ensure that I have sufficient to give. There's no ideal situation, I think, if you have a household to run, or even without a household to run. It's all about finding the best, the sweet spot in any given moment and making sure that, you're on top of it. And that's why, when you talk about earlier on how to make sure you know your truth and all this doesn't come from one practice. It is daily practice that every single little thing we do, how can I balance it out without taking me out from the equation? But how can I balance it out without losing myself when I attend to everybody? There's no perfect formula. You have to figure it out, because for me, there may be days that I find most part of my day is spent on attending others. And if I feel that, I've kind of given too much, then I may take a step back the next day or two and make sure that I've got enough reserve. 100% tank for everyone, perfect. But is it doable? Probably. But in the way that we're living, I don't know. There are so many different pieces. It really is finding the best way that works for you. And it may be one day this, the other day that, but it could be 1 month this, 1 month that. There's no, every day you've got to split it into, equal hours for this, equal hours of that. I don't think it works like that. You've got to be flexible and organic with it all.
This is very inspiring, because I had my baby 2 years ago almost, and I was forgetting who I was at one point. I had this label that society usually gives to women, especially in this part of the world, in Romania, in Eastern Europe, where you would need to be fully committed to the child. Although the doctors tell you, and the midwives, you need to take care of yourself, you need to mind your health. But the general voice tells you you do not need to move one finger if the baby is not 100% well taken care of. And, I tried this for a few hours. It was awful. It was me having this unfulfilling feeling that I cannot be something that I am not. I cannot attend to this baby's needs if I'm frustrated, if I'm angry, if I don't get to read my book, if I don't get to have my personal development course working each day to keep my mind wired and to get me to become my best version. What am I going to teach this child? Because it's easy to tell the child what to do, but obviously you know this better than I do, that the child will do what they see you doing, not what you tell them to do, since we are our walking role models for our children. This is so inspiring,
Exactly.
Kitty. Can you please tell us about your amazing book, The Code? What is your favorite part that you have written in it?
Oh, that's a good question. The favorite part. I think there are two, because the book is kind of half a journal. I've been writing a journal for, 20, 30 years. So in the book, I also extracted some of the highlights of the journals that I've been writing all the way along to give readers a good sense of what's happening in my mind and in my heart. So it was nice to be able to share that, because, you know, how many people are willing to share their inner feelings, their journals? And from there onwards, it relates back to the models that I created. This is what I created, and this is how you can actually do your own journey and look at how it happened in my life, in real life. It wasn't just all made up and say, okay, here's the theory, go practice. It's just like, this is what I've been through, this is how it worked, and let's see if you can replicate it in your own way. For me, writing the book, it was so fulfilling, because it allows me to relive those moments, and it allows me to share my life with other people. And if the book can help even like one person, and luckily it has helped more than one, to really think about, you know, if they want to live their life differently. I mean, I feel that it's done its job, but obviously I want more people to be able to read it and, you know, to understand how it can actually work in reality.
How can we get this amazing book?
Well, because I have a few copies here, limited copies. So for people who want to get a signed copy, you can drop us a comment on my Facebook or Rosanna's page, however it is, so that both of us can see it, and then we'll DM you and get your personal details. Or if you don't want to wait and get an ebook, you can buy, you know, paperback or e-copy on Amazon.com, and I think some of the bookstores also carry them. So signed copies, just drop us a comment on our social media platform.
Beautiful, Kitty. And before we go, can you please give us an advice for someone that is young at the beginning of their journey? What should they focus on first before anything else?
Follow your heart. Go where your heart tells you to go. And be mindful that the mind is here to help us navigate physical obstacles. The mind is not here to tell us to stop pursuing our dreams and passion. I find that many people got mixed up. Oh, if it doesn't make sense, don't do it. But life isn't about making sense. Life is about experiencing, experimenting, and exploring. And which means a lot of times things that we do, they don't make sense at all. But don't stop, because the mind is saying, hey, you know, it doesn't make sense. So for me, it's like, listen to your heart, but use your mind to overcome obstacles, not the other way around. Don't always listen to your mind. The mind is good for survival and practical stuff, but there are times I feel that our minds do play tricks on us, especially when we don't spend enough time to examine and challenge our thoughts and beliefs. And therefore, listen to the heart and use your mind.
This is so powerful, and it makes all the sense, Kitty, because in a way now I'm thinking that this is development simplified. Find that middle ground, right? This is beautiful, Kitty. This has been more than revelatory. I'm feeling in pages of my notebook here. Can you please tell our audience how to get in touch with you? Because by now, I'm pretty sure that everyone wants to at least have a talk with you and get to know you better through your amazing work and have your book as well.
You can reach me through my email. I'm also on Facebook page, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And I'm sure that the details will be listed on our social media platform. If you see this video clips, I'm sure the social media platform contacts will be there.
Definitely. Kitty, once again, thank you for simplifying personal development for us. This is epic. This is going in history with the best and the most effective advice for living your best life. Listen to your heart and use your mind. I'm going to make this as a mantra. I'm loving this. I have learned so much from you today that I feel that this has been a mastermind and I'm so honored. Thank you for your time. This has been beyond inspiring. And I cannot wait to see what wonders you create next because I know you have a second book in store. I can't wait for us to talk about this at a later time. So, thank you once again for your wisdom and energy.
Thank you. No, thank you for hosting. I appreciate it.
And saying goodbye to our YouTube friends. Thank you for joining us on YouTube.
Okay.